Welcome back to the Strength Personified podcast. My name is Brittany Cooley and I'm your host. And today I am going to be doing something that I've wanted to do for a while. I just haven't found the time. I've been very consumed with my job this year and I've not given any kind of attention to my brand and my meaningful mission. And that's no one's fault but my own. I just haven't made time for it. I found every excuse under the sun. I felt like I didn't have anything to talk about. I felt like I didn't have anything to share. I felt like I was invaluable for a majority of this year. And I just kind of put everything to do with my meaningful mission and my purpose to the side because at the end of the day, I just was exhausted. I didn't have my best self to give to it. And while I don't really have a lot of insight to give you, this year has really taught me a lot of things. I've grown a lot professionally. I have learned many valuable lessons. I feel like I've grown and really I had more rose-colored glasses ripped off this year than I had anticipated. And I feel like I've really removed myself from some really unhealthy situations in my life. And I'm really proud of that. But as far as being a success story this year was a year of growth for me. I gained weight back. I'm heavier now, so I don't have a weight success story. But I feel like I'm getting myself back. And there are many things that I'm proud of this year. And I will do a 2023 recap of kind of updating you on the things that I learned and my accomplishments that I did have and everything that I've been doing. But for the purpose of this episode, I wanted to share with you something that I know so many of you are waiting for. And for that, I do apologize. My third book, Strength Personified, A Personal Story of Chaos to Consciousness, has been due for a year now. And it was finished at the time I announced the pre-sale a year ago or more. And at the time of publication, when I went to hit publish at the manuscript, it didn't feel right. And for me as a writer, I communicate my experiences. I communicate my raw, real truth. I communicate things when they're finalized, certain chapters of my life when they're closed, and I feel like I can disclose them. But I did not feel right about this third book. I was not ready yet. I knew it wasn't right. I knew it wasn't finished. I knew it wasn't really the truth. I was telling things and sharing things in a way that would make other people happy. And if you know me, you know I just can't do that. It was a sacrifice of my brand. It was a sacrifice of my integrity. It was a sacrifice of my soul. And so I decided to pull it and completely reconstruct it. So, that is why it is not in anybody's mailboxes yet or on Amazon, and I apologize. But when you're writing from the heart, I'm not writing a nonfiction piece that I want to sell millions of copies of. I'm writing experiences that I've been through and the valuable lessons that I've learned. And this book is supposed to be like a final healing piece to end the Strength Personified Tragedy to Triumph series, right? Not to end it, but to end the turmoil and all the lessons and then be able to create something really beautiful afterwards. I don't think that we're ever done learning. I don't think that we're ever done growing. I learn something new every day. I experiencing something new every day. I heal more every day. I'm less affected by my triggers every day. All of these things happen for a reason. But I had a certain point where in the constructing of this book, it is supposed to describe the chaos that was my life for so long, and then the consciousness that I brought around it and to solve these issues. And I go through everything from my childhood to most recent day. I'm glad that I pulled it because I have such a good final chapter now, and I'm just so proud of it. So anyway, I did not feel right about it. I did not feel like it was finished. I did not feel like it was right. I didn't feel like it was accurate. I didn't feel like it was my truth. I felt like I was just writing a book to get it done. And I know that people pre-ordered and I know you're waiting, but I just can't do that. So I have refunded some people. I can't afford to refund anybody else until after the new year. I hope you all understand. So if you're waiting for it, it will be finished. Because I'm at a very good place right now where I can finish it. And it is almost done. But long story, not any shorter. The first chapter is the first half of the book is done. And I wanted to read the first chapter for you. For all of those of you who are waiting, for all of those of my readers that have read my first book, you read my second book, you read my first book, rewrite, all of these things, I wanted to read the first chapter of this book to you so you get a feel for it, so you know what I'm saying, so you know kind of where I'm coming from. And the healing journey that I've had to go on for the last, 20 years of my life. I will be returning to Pensacola, Florida in 3 weeks. And that's the first time I've been back since my childhood. I haven't been there since I left and I got put on a plane to Scranton, Pennsylvania when my dad picked me up when I was 14, which was over 20 years ago. So that's going to be a whole experience in itself, and I'll make sure I'm going to vlog it on my TikTok and on Facebook. I'm going to talk about it, and I'll do a podcast about it as well. But before I can give you that content, I wanted to give you the first chapter of my third book, Strength Personified 3. It's so crazy to me that I've written 3 books. It really is. And I want to write more. It's so crazy. Everything is in the universe's time. I've totally learned that. But Strength Personified 3, a personal story of chaos to consciousness. I hope you like this first chapter. If you like it, please make sure you get on my pre-order list, and please look for it on Amazon when it comes out in the next few weeks. This is one of the hardest books I've ever had to write, and it is one that really brought out a lot of the skeletons that have been hiding in my closet for such a long time. I didn't even know they were there anymore, and I didn't know it wasn't normal to feel the way as I felt, and I really had to go undercover and really dig deep and to realize what my issues were and why I am the way I am, because I want to be better. I want to be better for no one else other than my daughter. I don't want to become my mom. I don't want to turn into her. And I know that sounds terrible, but I don't want to end up losing my shit and then just losing everything. And I definitely have seen myself on that path within the last decade of my life. So I wanted to share this journey with you and kind of use it as a tool and a guidance to preventing self obliteration, basically, and promoting self-care and self-awareness and acceptance and love and forgiveness and moving forward and really being okay with the mistakes that you've made, knowing that they've made you who you are today and knowing that you're not that person anymore. So without further ado, this is the first chapter of my third book. I hope you like it. Strength Personified 3, a personal story of chaos to consciousness. Chapter 1, Unveiled. I have been a master of chaos for as long as I can remember. At a very young age, I learned how to adapt quickly to my environment and learned all too soon how ugly and messy the world can be. I was submerged in anguish and instability that became my normal. My baseline at best was never knowing where my next meal was going to come from. I got used to having no one to rely on. I was conditioned to be on my own and figure out my problems by myself. I learned that I could trust no one, and even if I did, I would only be left with disappointment in my heart. I learned to believe that everything really was too good to be true, and there is no green grass anywhere, especially not on the other side. Growing up with my lack of nurture left me to nature, to my environment and my surroundings. For the most crucial years of my development, I was left to my own devices. Therefore, I was subsequently programmed to live a life of instability. And for several decades, I did. I fell out of every tree, hitting every goddamn branch on the way down and ending up on the ground, amazed that I made it alive through another battle. Until something happened that completely shattered the way I viewed the world, and myself for that matter. I became a mother. I grew a human in my belly for over 9 months. I gave birth to the most beautiful little girl this earth has ever been graced with. If you have read my second book, you know the story. It wasn't easy. It was a very chaotic experience within itself, but she is truly the greatest gift that God has ever given me. She gave me a whole new meaning to life and making the most of it. She makes me want to be a better person every single day. I want to make her proud. I want her to see her mom sparkle and shine like I once did in my own living room up on that hill all those years ago. Most importantly, more than ever, I wanted to provide a stable environment for my baby girl. I shudder at the thought of having to experience anything that I did. My greatest fear in my life to this very day, in this hour, turning into my mother. Therefore, I knew I had to rise to the occasion and make some serious changes. And I knew I couldn't do it on my own. I was desperate for someone or something to put bowling bumpers down on my lane of life and give me some tough love and direction. I needed to find someone who I could trust and depend on, someone who wouldn't run away when things got difficult because, well, I'm difficult. I know it. There are very few people who have stayed in my life all these years because I've either been too much or I've pushed them away. I'm a lot. I'm a heavy load to carry as a friend. I always have been. I own that. Whilst I found someone to give me the tough love and force me all the way outside my comfort zone, looking at all the uglies I had been avoiding my entire life, even after sharing my history of trauma, they didn't save me. They did not make my life all better. They simply turned me in the mirror and looked and took the burlap sack off my head and showed me who had been in control all along. They introduced me to me, the ringmaster of chaos and the light bringer of consciousness. It had always been me. And that pissed me off more than anything I had ever had, because I came to the realization that I had been a master of attractor of chaos. For all the decades, I have always held the reins. I chose chaos that followed my childhood. I chose to live the way I had for all these years. It was a choice. My trauma had conditioned me to be this tightly wound ball of barbed wire. I kept all the good things out. I pushed all the help and love away. I let fear control my entire life, and I didn't even realize it. Now, before you shove my own words down my throat, yes, I'm aware that I've spoken about no one coming to save you for years. I've always known that. Secretly, though, I really had a firm belief that someone was going to come save me someday. I really believed in my delusional, beat-up soul that there was gold at the end of the rainbow, and I was going to cash in. I truly believed that good karma was going to come for me, and at some point, due to all that I had been through, would just bless the fucking pants right off of me. That is how I got through. When I continually kept getting kicked and shoved by life, I just kept in the back of my mind that someday this would all be worth it and make sense, and everything was just going to be okay. Everything was going to be perfect. I had unrealistic expectations of hope. Hope helped me get through, but the lack of responsibility I took for my actions harmed me even more. I think that is the most embarrassing thing that I'm going to share with you in this book. I'm literally rolling my eyes at myself. I had a lot of growing up to do, and if it weren't for my daughter, I probably still would. She's saved me in more ways and gives me more meaning and purpose every day. If I didn't want to be better for me, she surely deserves me to be better for her. Up until this year, I'd always made excuses for myself. I always had snarky comebacks. I was petty. I was jaded. I was hardened, bitter, and jealous. I know it seems shocking to some of you, but truly, deep down, I really didn't believe I deserved good and the world had to offer. I really didn't see that I held value or was capable of being loved and appreciated. My sense of humor has always been a mask for my greatest trauma response. Due to that strong set of instilled beliefs within myself, I held myself back a lot. I always bit off more than I could chew. I was constantly trying to prove my worth to the world, and the more I did that, the more people would drop out of my life. I was the queen of self-sabotage, and I didn't even know it. I had zero clue. I'd spent more than a decade of my life helping others, inspiring strength and hope in others when I didn't even inspire myself. I have received compliments from people all over the world about my resilience and strength, and I never believed I was worthy of a single one of them. The heart of my chaos was in the lack of a heart I had for myself. Until my mentor ripped off that Band-Aid of a veil, I was big-time denial, and I didn't really see my value at all. I had always listened to the haters and the trolls, people who degraded me as a human being, and always outside, and out always had my belief, yet those who said nice things were pushed aside and ignored. I can remember the day of my unveiling began. It was like it was yesterday. I was in a meeting with my mentor as I had been doing some freelance work for his new consulting business that I helped him get started. I was doing some graphic design and some social media makeovers to his pages as they weren't up to my social media standard, let alone his. I had lost hundreds of pounds with his one-on-one coaching, and I truly transformed my body in ways I never thought were possible in record time. Of course, I posted my results online. I got a ton of comments and likes and shares. I told him that he had a real opportunity here to make some money because I wasn't the only client that he had with these results. I was just the only one sharing them with a significant following. To my surprise, he listened to what I had to say and decided to give me creative reign over his media portion of his business. I was thrilled, to say the least. This was right up my alley. I love helping people change their life. I love social media and graphic design. I love creating content and learning new ways to create content and reach more people. This was my fucking jam. But because I was working for someone who already had super high standards, I was concerned. This was different than anything I had ever done. I take pride in my entrepreneurial work and always do my very best. But what if my very best wasn't good enough for him? What if he hated what I did? Up to this point, I had never given any human this much control over my life or any aspect of it. I honestly never trust anyone as much as I did him, and that scared me. His word was most valuable of all. I think if he acted as if he was disappointed in me, it would have killed me at the time. I was terrified of letting him down or being a disappointment. He was already a very successful, intelligent businessman living the American dream. He has the perfect wife, 2 kids, the house, the pool, so on and so forth. I couldn't wrap my head around what I could possibly provide him who already held such value. Sure, I can put some posts together and help him promote himself in his coaching because he just didn't have the time to do it. But if he did, he would do it well. I have yet to find anything the guy can't do. I have the utmost respect for him, and I was fearful of losing our friendship that I had built with his family. They were my people. I wouldn't have made it through the last 2 years without their unwavering support. I was convinced that I would fuck it up. At the time, I had been working as a multi-systemic therapist in a community. I had a wide variety of different jobs and positions within my field of study. And after giving up my job at Robert Packer Behavioral Science Unit, I was more than devastated. I came home from Florida with no husband, no job, nowhere to live, and 6-month-old that I had to provide for all on my own. I lived with my father, and I had an insane amount of people from my community and online support me. People really rallied to make sure I had everything I needed, and I'm so grateful for that. I finally got my own place and started my meal prep business again and interviewed for this MST position at the recommendation of a good friend. It paid well, and it was worth a guarantee of consistent income every month. I needed health insurance as I was about to be kicked off my husband's TRICARE. I could still do my food business on the side. It was a win choice. When I started training for this position, I instantly was overwhelmed. I've never felt stupid in my field, not even straight out of college. I had a lot of personal experience, and my ability to connect with others was absolutely outstanding. I felt stupid every single day. I had such a hard time learning the model. Everyone said that it was normal and I would eventually get it. I had high hopes that they were right. While my self-esteem personally had always been poor, my professional self-esteem was always 100%. I was born to work in social work. I was born to help troubled individuals. I was born to help families live better lives. I have always taken pride in my work, and when someone asks me if I'm good at my job, my answer is always, I'm better than anyone else. I was always confident in my ability to find solutions and problem solve and face adversity. I have seen the worst of the worst, I can assure you. That is what I was born to do, and that is what I lived for. As each day of training passed, the more insecure I felt about my professional abilities. But I listened to what the trainer said, and I listened to my friend and supervisor. Of course, there was always a learning curve when starting a new position. I decided to give myself a little grace and confidence that I would pick it up in no time. When I tell you I gave this job my all, I really mean it. I read the books, I studied the graphs, I worked with my friend, I asked a million questions, I asked for help constantly. I was eager to really make this work and take pride in my position, because waking up and dreading work every day is no way to live. That is simply not something I'm willing to do. I ended up closing my meal prep business to devote more time to focusing on this job. I cut out every single thing I considered a distraction to be the very best I could be. Even as a single mother, I really thought that I would be able to knock this out of the park and show my colleagues and management that I was a great fit and the best therapist they ever had. I truly had my heart set on it. After weeks of struggling and being completely baffled when I was continuously told that I just wasn't doing the greatest, I began to really internalize this overwhelming feeling of failure. Never in my life have I felt this defeated, misunderstood, and unappreciated by a job. I had a better experience working as a patty packer at the local slaughterhouse during my college years. Professionally, I was beyond discouraged. I felt so degraded. I think you really just need to learn how to make a to-do list, Brittany, was the most condescending thing anyone could ever say to me. Because I, Brittany Cooley, am amazing at to-do lists. My whole life is made up of to-do lists. I have to-do lists for everything. I have lists for my lists. I'm 100% undiagnosed ADHD, which does make me a bit of a scatterbrain, but overall the years I've learned to manage it with my system of lists. Not to mention, I used to be a running part of the treatment team at Robert Packer Hospital. How dare this woman insult me by letting me know I didn't know how to make a to-do list. She didn't know me. The audacity. I remember like it was yesterday. We were meeting in my mentor's home office. I had one of his dining room chairs pulled up to his desk, and we were reviewing the progress that Ryan Focus Consulting had been making. He was astounded, much to my surprise, because he had been having these exact same results with family and friends for free for the last 2 years. Why hadn't he acted on this sooner was beyond me. He claimed it was because he didn't have the time or he didn't have the push that I had given him. Those things may have been true, but the potential I saw in him and what he was actually capable of seemed like breaking news to him. He then quoted Jim Rohn and said, "All you need is one believer." He deemed me as his one believer. I was honored and really befuddled, all in the same wave. How does this guy know? How does this guy who has a successful business already need someone like me to believe in him? It was absolutely fucking ridiculous concept to me. He didn't need a believer. I wanted to slap him, tell him to go look in the fucking mirror and look around his home, look at your garage and check your bank account, check all your clients' progress. I couldn't grasp it. For being a brilliant man, he was acting really stupid. And I was even more shocked by his next suggestion, the very moment that everything changed for me. I had been telling him about my job and how defeated I was. I looked to him for guidance in most areas of life because he's a straight shooter. He wasn't going to coddle me or hold my hand or give me a hug. He was a problem solver. He was going to tell me how it was, tell me what to do to fix it. He didn't come off as if he had any sort of human feelings. He always chose to do the right thing. So I knew that he would have some reasonable insight for me to digest and make a plan of action. Instead, he said, "Quit your job, Brittany. Quit your job and come work for me full time." I replied, "I'm sorry." "What? Excuse me? Are you serious? How? What?" This was absolute insanity to me. Had he lost his fucking mind? He wanted to hire me full-time to do what? Social media management for Ryan Focus Consulting? We eventually came to the agreement that my title would be executive brand director, but nevertheless, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was he having a nervous breakdown? Did he smoke something before a meeting? Was that tequila in his glass? What the actual fuck? He wanted to hire me to work for him in a made-up position in his brand new baby company. He wanted me to run and manage it. What did he see in me that was so great to trust me with his entire brand? How could someone like him see so much in me? All I did was throw a few graphics together. I could practically do it in my sleep. Anybody could do it, really. That was the day that he credited me to being his one believer to get him started on helping people change their lives as one of his professions. But really, that was the day he became my one believer. That was the day when I realized I had a lot of internal work to do because after all that I had been through and all the work I had done, at the end of the day, I still hated myself. I had no self-esteem. I still felt like a broken doll on the shelf that no one wanted anymore. I still felt like poor Brittany sleeping in the back of her mom's car and scrounging for change and for vending machine food in the parking lot. I still felt absolutely worthless to the world aside from now being a mom and having a life to care for that was not my own. It didn't matter that I had lost 100 pounds and I was back into my size 4 pants. It didn't matter that I was a published author and keynote speaker and spoke to thousands of people all over the country. It didn't matter that literally thousands of people collectively have told me I have inspired them to believe in me. I was still a miserable fucking person. No, I wasn't suicidal. No, I wasn't actively harming myself or actively, consciously speaking badly to myself. But deep down, I really felt as if it didn't matter at all. I still felt like a waste of a human carcass. For some reason, I needed his validation to get on my feet on the ground again. It was a bright light and a slap in the face all at once. Like, of course he wants to hire me. Of course he offered me to come work for him full time. Of course, because I am the best at what I do, especially for this area. I'm absolutely the best at what he was going to get. I knew him. I knew his brand. I knew way more about social media than everybody he knew combined. My entire entrepreneurial career was preparing me for this day, this very moment. The fact that I didn't see my worth or even a tiny glimpse of it until this day in April of 2022 is heartbreaking, to say the very least. And all Jameson did was turn me in the mirror and show me who I actually was. There was no pomp. There was no circumstance. There was no award or groundbreaking revelation. He just illuminated dark parts of my soul by offering me an opportunity of a lifetime without hesitation. The more frightening side of this revelation was the part where I had to take responsibility for manifesting all the chaos and destruction within my life. Due to my shitty self-esteem, zero self-worth, and negative outlook, I was to blame for attracting all the chaos and sabotaging most of the good things that had come my direction. Because what you focus on, you become. How was I planning on raising a confident daughter if I wasn't confident in myself? How was I going to create stability in our lives long term if I was continually attracting mass destruction and chaos into our lives? How was I going to run this fucking company without going to business school a day in my life if I couldn't even manage my own life? It was time to go on a journey, and I'm happy to take you through it within the next few chapters. It wasn't easy, it still isn't easy, but I found my peace. I found deep love for myself. I've learned to stand up for what I believe in and be okay with people not liking it. I've learned to let things go because holding on to them was killing me. I've learned to make important decisions and go with my gut and confidently do so. I've learned to forgive my own well-being. I've learned to forgive for my own well-being without the relationship being mended. I've learned that in some situations, it is what it is, but it doesn't have to be. I have learned to cut off toxic limbs because they aren't worth dying for. I have learned to find happiness in the small things because the small things are actually really big things. I have learned to live each moment and understand my depression and my sadness may linger, but have no control unless I give them permission. I had to stop giving them permission. So without further ado, gather round, come along with the most necessary, painful journey that I have taken yet. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Strength Personified podcast. My name is Brittany Cooley, and if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, subscribe, share with your friends, share on social media using the hashtag Strength Personified. If you have not gotten on the wait list for my third book, please do so by inboxing me on Instagram. My handle is @theBrittanyCooley. You can also follow me on TikTok is @theBrittanyCooley. Thank you guys so much. I love you. Remember, you are here for a purpose. You have a reason. And you are not alone. I will see you next time.